Sous-titres français disponibles dans les options CC.
Hi there, welcome to my YouTube channel, Touring Backroads France. Today we're going to take a look at some of the historical places in Minnesota in the United States. Now you might be asking yourself, why is a guy with a YouTube channel about France doing videos about Minnesota? And as you can probably tell by my accent, that's where I'm from. Now I'm laying it on a little thick here, but it is kind of hard to get rid of. Now I do my best here. As you can see, the weather's not so bad today. I am back in France, but I'm going to take you to look at the Fauché Tower, the James J. Hill House, Union Depot in St. Paul, and some other places that I was just visiting a couple weeks ago. Now, Minnesota is a backroads location. There's not a lot of tourism there. Most people just go right on through. Now, the reason is it gets very cold in the wintertime, and the climate there isn't the most hospitable. And as for the culture, well, it's different. Come with me today as we visit some of the places in Minnesota and learn more about its history. If you're just getting started with learning about Minnesota, you might have some catching up to do. For today's trivia question, what is Minnesota's state motto? Stick around until the end of the video and I'll give you the answer. Now, while we're getting started here, a few things about Minnesota culture. First of all, there's a thing called Minnesota Nice. I'm not really sure what that is. I grew up there, so no one ever explained it to me. Second, people from Minnesota aren't sarcastic, they're insightful, but don't expect them to go bragging about it. Finally, no one in Minnesota really says they have an accent or knows where it comes from. You know, it's just one of those things. Now, if you want to get an idea about Minnesota, you gotta start in the Twin Cities. That's Minneapolis and St. Paul to those from out of state. They're a few miles apart and have a couple million people, so you might want to start there, and there's a big airport. I always like the history here. Today we'll look at a few interesting places that also have ties to France. A lot of places and people in Minnesota actually do. In the Twin Cities, there's a nice skyline to start with, and the Mississippi River. One of the places I always liked is the Fauché Tower. It was built in the 1920s and remained the tallest building between Chicago and the West Coast until the 1970s, when they built that modern-looking IDS tower right next door. It's made in Art Deco style, and it was designed by an architect named Léon Eugène Arnal, who was born in Muret, France. It was built to resemble the Washington Monument. The guy that financed the project was an American businessman named Wilbur Fauché, who had his name humbly engraved in stone on all four sides at the top. Unfortunately for him, the stock market crashed in 1929, just a few months after the building was completed. He was accused of fraud and sent to prison, then pardoned and released by President Roosevelt. Ironically or not, fauché in French is slang for broke. The elaborate decoration, marble interior, and Art Deco style of the building have stayed classy. Today it's a luxury hotel, and you can go to the observation deck and have a cocktail at the Prohibition Lounge. Some people even use the building for base jumping, apparently.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, see ya!
In older pictures of Minneapolis, during its more industrial days, the Fauché Tower was the only skyscraper and a major landmark. Today it just sort of blends in with the rest of the skyline. Another point of interest is on the other side of the river in St. Paul. The railroads that built America had a strong ally in Minnesota by the name of James J. Hill. Starting from basically nothing in the mid-19th century, the railroad tycoon built a transcontinental line to Seattle through the Great Northern Railroad. Using almost no government land grants, it opened the doors to the west. Hill's interest in nature and the outdoors gave rise to Glacier National Park in Montana. He had a major impact on the development of the railroad system in Minnesota and the broader upper Midwest. Known as the Empire Builder, Hill was instrumental in transforming Minnesota into a key hub of commerce and transportation during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, starting at milepost 0 at St. Paul's Union Depot. Visiting the city today, the James J. Hill House sits just opposite the St. Paul Cathedral. It's well worth a visit, although it's not open every day, so check the opening hours. Guided tours are available in English once an hour. A tour of the James J. Hill House provides a look into the bourgeois lifestyle of this 19th century railroad baron, as well as that of his 10 children. The second youngest of them, Gertrude Hill, reveals a link to France with a curious backstory. In 1926, she decided to purchase a chapel in Chasse-sur-Rhône, near Lyon, an edifice built in the early 15th century. Legend had it that it was kissed by Joan of Arc, who became the patron saint of France during Gertrude's early life. She so admired this legend that she outright bought the property, then had it painstakingly archived, photographed, dismantled stone by stone, and shipped to Long Island, New York, where it was reassembled. The tests of time notwithstanding, it was acquired by Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and moved there in January of 1965. The loss of this structure sparked controversy in France when laws were passed to ban the sale of such properties after Gertrude's export venture in the 1920s. Now, going back to the Hill House, it sits prominently at the entrance of the Summit Avenue neighborhood, a beautiful stretch of homes that rest atop the river bluffs of the Mississippi. Among many of the places in Minnesota for amazing historical architecture, this is at the top of the list. Just downhill from Summit Avenue, moving into the downtown grid of St. Paul, James J. Hill left his mark on the city with the construction of the Great Northern Building and participation in the building of St. Paul Union Depot. The office building served as a railroad headquarters for many years and now is used for private office space. The depot was restored in 2012 at the cost of over $200 million. The Empire Builder still calls here twice a day, as well as bus service. While the depot building is beautiful and impressively restored, it bears noting that it seems overwhelmingly empty. A transportation hub like this used to witness hundreds of passenger trains every day, with dozens of tracks and platforms moving tens of thousands of people to Chicago, Seattle, and all points in between. With the decline of passenger rail, we can at least appreciate the fact that this building did not meet the same fate as the Minneapolis Union Depot. It was razed in 1978, just months before Amtrak could get the paperwork done to preserve it. Fittingly, it is now home to the Federal Reserve Building, an institution that clearly has America's best interests at heart. One can hope that the Union Depot will continue to expand its services out in the future. There's certainly some public sentiment in its favor, but whether it's preserved as a historical monument or a functional transportation hub, the fact is it remains in place, unlike so many other historical buildings in the Twin Cities. The loss of these buildings is once again a parallel we can draw between France and the United States. While rich families such as the Hills could afford to purchase historic and religious places outright and export them, it took the loss of irreplaceable architecture in both countries to spark the preservation movement. The loss of Penn Station in New York City was the spark that ignited preservation in the United States, starting in the early 1960s. In France, it started as early as the 19th century, but struggled through multiple wars, economic crises, and foreign occupation. Now, there's a lot more to explore in the Twin Cities, and Minnesota in general. If you're into the details of railroad history like I am, I have to recommend a YouTube channel called Minnesota Bricks. In the meantime, I'll get around to doing more videos about Minnesota in the future. As for the answer to today's trivia question, Minnesota's state motto is L'Étoile du Nord, which is French for the North Star. Untranslated from its mother language, it was carried over by the voyageurs and the fur traders that first canoed through the lakes and rivers here in the 16th and 17th centuries. So is there a lot in common between France and Minnesota? You betcha there is. If you like the content on this channel, I'd sure be happy if you liked and subscribed. It's kind of how we YouTubers get paid. Well, anyway, this has been a little bit of a different video for me. I usually try and tone down my Minnesota accent, but this time, well, I just let her go. It always comes back thick when I go and visit. While I'm working on some more videos, check out my playlist on the Knights Templar or towns over here in France. You'll probably learn something, and even if you don't, at least you can say you tried.